Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and today we'll continue with our series, Jews and Their Culture. Now, for those of you new to Celebration, this is a program which tries to derive a better understanding of peoples and their cultures from information, from sources which are not too well known by the general public. We do understand that the general public has knowledge of most peoples and their cultures, broadly gained through watching movies and TV and schools and so forth. We would assume that most of this information is fairly accurate, often of a positive sort, particularly if gained through watching, say, travel programs and something of this kind. But at any rate, we don't think they have the whole story, and it is our aim as an educational program to sort of go to these areas utilizing material from sources not too well known. We do think that this allows us to fill in the gaps and round out the picture for those who are interested in that sort of thing. Now, we have in the past, in our last episode, touched upon an interesting aspect of jewelry, that is the concept of the Sar, the guardian angel. This is a concept which seems to fall somewhat into the area of the occult, although we understand that there is some subjectivity to the concept. It certainly would fall into what most people would think is apocrypha. But at any rate, we do see a reasoned and energetic and creative effort to explain things, and we look upon this with a certain bit of admiration for the effort, and I think you will too. But let's go forward, first of all, and pick up where we last ended, with first a preliminary for those who did not see the previous program, so they have some idea of what this is about. So let's do that right now. What is a Sar? A Sar is an angelic patron or guardian prince assigned to each of the nations on earth. This is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shachet, Amalek, The Enemy Within, page 151. Now, it's entirely possible that some people out there, particularly amongst Jewry, who might object to bringing this up, Sars and so forth, as being just a small, insignificant element within Jewry of no importance to the culture, and no Jews that I know believe that, and all that kind of thing, just kind of a far-out group. We have our far-out people too, and that sort of thing. But this may be true. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm saying that when people write books about the subject, and the people who object are not presenting books that can defeat that argument or can make it apparent to be only a small segment, then I have a tendency to give credibility to the one who wrote the book, especially if he is a rabbi within rabbinic groups and so forth. So we do this. We do recognize, however, that some Jews and some of their friends in the Judeo-Christian community may not really like this to be presented as part of the Jewish culture. We think it's a reasonable, creative way of depicting heavenly doings, celestial doings, as they say. But just to go to the point in regard to the unimportance of the area known as Sars to Jewry. I was driving in Montgomery County in the Potomac area when I beheld a sign which had been driven into the earth and on the sign was SAR Associates, SAR Associates. I think this is some company that is into realty in some way or other. But that really stuck in my mind, and I wrote it down, the SAR Associates. And I'm sure that Montgomery County, with its significant Jewish population, has within it people who are familiar with Sars and who decided to use the name. It's sort of playing on the guardian angel aspect, or the guardian prince. Who knows, perhaps they are in contact somehow or other with their Sar. But at any rate, be that as it may, I think it is real. I think it is here and now. And I think it's in Montgomery County. But let's go forward. The final step in our linkage consists of Samael's identification with Satan. It is an understandable identification, since Samael is the root of death and defilement. He must be none other than the true Satan himself. Indeed, Isaac Luria preferred pronouncing Satan's name as Sam. In Kabbalistic literature, the name of Samael is synonymous with the evil inclination, the so-called sitra, ahra, or other side, that which is satanic within the heart of man and in the broader universe. Samael has therefore become evil personified, cosmically within the universe, personally within the heart of man. Now, since Samael is identified as the Sar of Amalek, Amalek has, therefore, also become all of the above: the polluting serpent, Satan, the sitra, ahra, and the personification of evil. One final association: Amalek is the El-Ir, that is, the alien god, which significantly has the same numerical equivalent as does Amalek, both total to the number 240. This is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, pages 155 and 156. Now, people, this may seem like dazzling exegesis, but let me caution here that the most important elements here are the Kabbalah duality, that is, two gods, numerology, and so forth. There is a caution in the Bible in regard to numerology. Of course, we do know that Hebrew letters do carry weight and so forth, and in a certain way should be considered. Now, let me just pause here as a kind of digression to talk a little bit about this. I know in the last episode we referred to 70 nations. There are 70 Sars for the 70 nations or kinds of people, as I interpreted it. We do see this as being God's plan, but touching on numerology and where it is good and where it's bad, let's just pause a moment for the good and consider this. The number 1 is unique. It is indivisible. It stands alone. It represents that which is of primary importance. That which is first mentioned is not only that which is of greatest importance, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God, but it is the establishment of God's law and word by which all that succeeds it is to be interpreted. God cannot change or lie. In the Bible, God has a purpose and meaning for every name and every number. In Bible numerics, 10 is the number of divine perfect order. This is a citation from Robert Allen Balakias, Uncovering the Mysteries of Your Hidden Inheritance, page 13, footnotes 10 and 9. Now, people, we do here do make the distinction in terminology of Bible numerics and numerology. But I do want to, again, try to bring this 1 in 10 home again by means of citation for your consideration so that its correct application is apparent. So consider. It is a genetic impossibility for all races to have descended from Adam. Simple biology proves this, and it is an impossibility decreed by God Himself. Remember, God is a God of order, and He created the physical laws of the universe that govern our lives. God declared this in His immutable law of everything after its own kind, which is mentioned 10 times in the first chapter of Genesis, the book of beginnings. Much scripture supports this. Robert Allen Balakias, Uncovering the Mysteries of Your Hidden Inheritance, page 13. So again, we have 1 as of primary importance. So we have 10 is God's perfect number, perfect order, signifying thereby. And we have 10 times, each according to its own kind, in the first chapter of Genesis. It seems apparent that God is trying to get across something here in this book, which unfortunately has not been heeded. And we do know that Isaac and Rebekah wept over the decision of Esau, greatly distressed when he took Canaanite women as his mates. But once this process begins, it can only lead to troubles according to God's order. We don't think it's something that should be hidden away but understood. What about Adam? Well, let's take a look at Adam. The Bible records in its first book that God formed Adam, the first man, and that the Bible is solely the history of Adam's people. Genesis 1, 26 through 28, 2:7, 5:1. So, who was this man that God created? The Hebrew word used in reference to Adam and his descendants, which is translated as man in our English Bibles, is the very word Adam itself, and it more properly intimates Adam man or Adamkind. In Hebrew, the words translated as Adam and man, Adamkind, are numbered in James Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible, 1890, as 119, Adam, and number 120, Adam, and mean to show blood in the face, to be fair, rosy-cheeked, to be ruddy, to be able to blush or flush. This is a citation of Robert Allen Balakias, Uncovering the Mysteries of Your Hidden Inheritance, page 12. I know that some people object to this interpretation, and for this reason I have brought Bible numerics into the picture to sort of strengthen the argument for those people who accept the Bible as authoritative. We understand the Bible has many enemies, and as does Christianity and the Israelites themselves. And there's no end of attacking all of these. The idea is to discredit as much as possible, to annihilate eventually. But there is, for those of you who accept the Bible, some interesting comment in the Bible which bear on this. Because if Adam is as specific as we think it is in terms of people, of species, then it certainly must mean that there are pre-Adamic people of a different kind. So let's see if the Bible gives us any information which bears on this. And please consider carefully. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from the face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. Genesis 4:13-14. Parents of all humans. And their first two children were Cain and Abel. And Cain slew Abel. Just what people would be out there a threat to Cain that he foresaw? Why would there be fear of someone out there slaying him? Well, it is something to consider. But let's go forward. It may be instructive at this point to recall some of the earlier imagery associated with Amalek. There is, for example, the midrashic account of the ungrateful child who is cast down to the ground by his father and attacked by a dog. The Israelites, similarly forgetful of their own divine father and protector, are likewise subject to attack by the dog Amalek. But there may be ominous undercurrents here. The Zohar proclaims that the root of Amalek, kellipot, the shards from which the sitra, ahra, derives its substance, is a dog. The dog is also described as a force emanating from the dangerous union of the ox and the ass, which are the crowns of the left side, the sources of power for the nations of the world. This is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, pages 156, 157. People, I'd like to make an objection here. I do not make any kind of statement that I am an exalted thinker or perceiver or anything of this kind. But by golly, I become indignant when I find people dissing dogs. And this idea that a dog came from the unholy, unnatural union of an ox and an ass really burns me up. Give the dogs a break. That's what I'm saying. You know, they've been loyal, good friends to man for a long time. Do they need to have this kind of dissing? I think not. But let's go forward. Amalek is also likened to a fly. Why? Because he rushes to lick a festering wound. The commentary, kellipot, broadens the analogy by pointing out that the evil inclination, like a fly, is incapable of attacking its victims directly in order to achieve victory. Instead, it probes for pre-existing openings and wounds in the skin and penetrates the weakened body's defenses at these points. Amalek likewise feared to confront the Israelites directly, preferring instead to await the opportune moment when Israel, as a result of having sinned, would be weakened and therefore vulnerable to attack. This is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, page 157. Well, excuse me, people, but that seems to be exactly what's happening in America today and in Western Europe. But be that as it may, of course, for those of you who have watched my video program, you're aware that the House of Israel, as well as much of the House of Judah, migrated into Western Europe, Great Britain, Ireland, and so forth. Leaving pockets, I might mention, along the way from Georgia and Azerbaijan and other spots, even a little nest egg in India, I would guess. But at any rate, the great bulk moved out to the Western European and the Isles and so forth. and from there to America, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth, where they set up wonderful economies, usually farming and so forth, received blessings in so much as they were early faithful, and so forth. This success invited immigration from people of a different sort, amongst which might be those who can be categorized as flies, and they are the Amalek. Now, we do also mention here that, as we mentioned in the previous episode, that Edom is within Jewry. That is, Edom became known as Idumea by the Greeks. It moved from its place around Elath, over in that general area near the Red Sea, and took up a spot further up in the area of Judea, and they were forcibly Judaized, circumcised, and became no longer Idumea or Edom, but a part of Jewry. So far as anyone knows, according to the flesh, this is the only place that is within Jewry in which one can find Edom according to the flesh. How far this strain has penetrated, I cannot say. But it is something which apparently thoughtful Jews are well aware of. And I think that this Mr. Shakhet and his Amalek, the enemy inside, the enemy within, is making reference to this, and it's something that should be considered, because the biblical commentary on Edom, prophecies and so forth, is not good. And Amalek is of Edom. Now, let's go forward, shall we? The equation was drawn between Amalek and Makl, comparing Amalek to the primordial serpent slithering deviously across the path. Indeed, the Zohar declares that Amalek may be likened to a serpent lying in ambush by the path, possessing venom with magical destructive powers. Moreover, according to the Zohar, there is an impurity from the side of the demons and evil spirits. There is none so cursed among them as Amalek, who is the evil serpent, the strange god. He is the cause of all unchastity and murder, and his twin soul is the poison of idolatry. The two together being called Samael. There is more than one Samael, and they are not all equal. But this side of the serpent is accursed above all of them. This is a citation from Elijah Judah Shakhet, Amalek, the enemy within, page 158, where once again, people, we see the imagery of the serpent, and we are just called to mind that Canaanite connection with its cult of the serpent and its obsession with sex and so forth. Of course, the Bible has pointed out that there is a season for everything under the sun, and the matter of sex was well or talked about in the Bible as to procedure and so forth for those who wanted to know about what was best in terms of this. But one thing is for sure, and that is that people who are obsessed with sex are not going to produce too much in the way of human advancement. And we think devolution would be a more likely prospect. But at any rate, it's something to consider. And I do have another citation I wanted to give you, which touches on the Sar. Considering the theme of the Sar and its ramifications as they unfold in mystical literature, two factors should be noted as being of crucial importance. They are the interrelationship between the forces of evil and the nations of the world, and the effect of Israel's behavior upon the Sar of the nations of the world. The first factor is emphasized in two Kabbalistic works, the Sefer HaPaleo and the Sefer HaKana. The author calls attention to the fact that there is a direct relationship between the celestial forces of evil and the Gentile nations of the earth. The confrontation on high between the powers of holiness and the powers of evil find its echo in the course of terrestrial world history, most notably in the confrontations between Israel and her enemies. Israel's sufferings and persecutions at the hands of her foes reflect the ascendant powers of their celestial ministers. Israel's eventual redemption on earth is directly related to the visitation of divine judgment upon these celestial powers of evil, an event highlighted by the fall of Samael. The second factor, dealing with Israel's power to influence cosmic events by either strengthening or weakening the celestial representatives of the nations, is spelled out in detail in the writings of the Spanish Kabbalist Joseph ben Abraham Guy Catilla, 1248-1325. Guy Catilla calls attention to the intimate relationship existing between the Sar of a nation and the nation itself, and how the well-being of the Sar determines the destiny of the nation. He distinguishes between various celestial ministers, among them the potent sitra, ahra, which he identifies as being the Sar of Edom and Amalek. The author emphasizes that Israel's sufferings on earth can be traced directly to the heavenly confrontation being waged between the powers of holiness and evil.